Hi, my name's Angela Casey and welcome to Edinburgh Outdoors, the podcast that explores Edinburgh's outdoor spaces and the people in them. And today I'm back on Calton Hill again. It's not quite as sunny as the other day, but it's much quieter. And once again, I'm looking at the fantastic views. And I'm here with Katie Paterson. Katie does two things. She's from Katie Does Comms PR, which she'll talk about. And she's also the creator of a brilliant networking group called The Outsiders. So Katie, welcome to Edinburgh Outdoors.
Thanks, Angela. Thanks for having me. During COVID, we were here every day. Yeah, we'd walk around Regent's Terrace and then up this side. You just get such a good view here. Like it is, this is 20 minutes walk from my front door, and to be able to get above the city, it's just amazing. You can see absolutely everything from up here.
It's quite good value, isn't it?
Yeah, and you get snow on the hills at this time of year, which is amazing, and out towards the Pentlands and the castle. It's just such a beautiful city. We're totally spoiled.
So you come up here quite a lot?
Yeah, I come up here at least a couple of times a week. I've got two young children, so we spend a lot of time. Actually, the other week we were making paper aeroplanes and chucking them off the hill there. Aww. They love jumping on these huge boulders over here that just kind of sit in the landscape, and they just love leaping about. And there was a bit of snow actually over the weekend, which was amazing. It was kind of slushy, but I could see it looked like there was a bit of coverage up here. So we didn't quite make it this far, but we did get the sledges out, which was great fun. We thought we'd make the most of it in case that was the only snow we get this year. But I spend a bit of time up here in the work week as well, just trying to kind of get a bit of fresh air and clear my head. And I work from a co-work down on St Andrew's Square, which is just a 5-10 minute walk from here. So it's a perfect way to get out of the city, because you can see Arthur's Seat in the crags. It's this really sort of dramatic landscape on one side. You've got the Pentland Hills a bit further around, and then the incredible old town with the castle, and it's just, you get a bit of everything. And then out towards Fife, you've got the sea as well, the water, and it is literally 20 minutes from my front door.
I can see some big hills. We can see the bridges as well. Look at that.
Yeah, it is wonderful.
So tell me about your day job first off. We'll talk about The Outsiders afterwards.
Yeah.
But tell me about your day job. So you work in a co-work space. That's because you work for yourself, is that right?
Yes. So I have spent the last 15 years now working in communications and marketing. And I started working for an amazing agency. So I studied sport and marketing, and I've just always been really passionate about being active and being outdoors. And I had this amazing opportunity to work in this agency down south in England, where we supported sports organisations with big campaigns to get people moving, get people active, which was absolutely fantastic. And I worked then for an organisation called UK Active, which are all about getting people more active more often. And that was brilliant, because I was part of these big national campaigns to get people moving. I was bringing lots of stakeholders from the sector together to get them moving and to really make things happen, really drive change at a national level. And then we sort of had this realisation, my husband and I, we've been really keen on physical activity. We'd run lots of marathons. We used to do all sorts of crazy things in our
I'm going to ask 20s. You about that later, because I know about your bike ride.
Yeah, well, we've done all sorts of crazy things in our 20s. I'll come on to it slightly, because I do think it's part of the story. So I was having a brilliant time working in London. And then we thought, do you know what, it's time for a bit of an adventure. That's kind of been a theme in my life, really, is outdoors, activity, adventure. They're things I'm really passionate about. And we met a guy who had cycled around the world and just thought, that sounds a brilliant thing to do. So the next day, actually, I went into my employer and I handed in my notice, not to cycle around the world, but I knew that I needed to earn a little bit more money to make that happen. And that was the moment where I made the decision to become self-employed, so that I would have the flexibility over the work that I took on, and really to kind of try and earn a bit more money to make this adventure happen. And fast forward 12 months, we'd done it. We had the bikes, we had the insurance, we had the flights booked, and then we spent the next year actually on bicycles riding 22,000 kilometres around the world, which was just incredible. You know, being outdoors every single day was just awesome. Travelling on bikes is just my absolute favourite thing to do.
And did you forward plan where you were going to be which day and you had a schedule, or did you just go and get on a ferry and head off?
Now that's a good question. So we weren't quite that organised. We had milestones, so we would say we broke it down into legs, because if you just think about cycling around the whole world, it's a pretty overwhelming thought. So we broke it down into legs, and the first leg, for example, was getting from London to Dublin. And so we rode across England, through Wales, and then up the coast of Ireland there to Dublin. And then the next leg was across America. So we rode across America, and it was incredible. I mean, it was during the first time Trump was elected. We were actually on the Mexican border the night he was elected the first time, really absorbing a lot of the atmosphere, which was kind of unimaginable, to be honest, like really crazy. And then from there we rode down New Zealand, so that was another leg, and then we flew to Vietnam, and we basically rode home from there. But we always had kind of markers of points that we needed to get to, which kept us accountable, it kept us moving. We knew we needed to be back within 12 months because my husband had a sabbatical agreed, so we had a deadline on it. But I think that enabled us to have these smaller goals. They were still really big goals, and then within that we broke that down into towns and things ahead of us.
And did you have things that went wrong when you were there and all that kind of thing?
Plenty. I mean, there were plenty of things, little things like where are we going to sleep each night. You know, sometimes that was really straightforward, and other times we'd end up sleeping under a bridge or all sorts of things. We had terrible bike mechanicals, having to get hubs replaced in the middle of Tajikistan, which is interesting because you've got language barriers, there's all sorts of things, and you're looking for specific bits of kit. But generally people came to the rescue. That was the sort of theme of the trip, really. If we were ever in trouble, people were just amazing. Whether you could speak the same language or not, people would just come to your aid all the time. Yeah, I think we were particularly odd cycling through very rural parts of Kyrgyzstan and India and Nepal. We obviously looked like we weren't from around there, so people found us quite interesting, I think, to talk to, and we were just often like invited into people's homes and just looked after. It was really amazing. But I think cycling is just such a humble way of travelling because you're at people's level and you can stop and smell things and chat to people and interact with the scene in a way that you can't when you're in a moving vehicle. I think it's part of the story as well, because that was the catalyst for me being self-employed, to give myself the flexibility and the freedom to be able to do that. And we were at a stage in life where that was possible, so it really enabled us to take that trip. And from there, we got back and I had a moment of crisis where I was thinking, oh, what am I going to do? And then I got on the phone to people I'd been working with previously and picked up more communications and marketing consultancy work. And since then, I've just been supporting all sorts of organisations, lots of them in physical activity and outdoors, some in community gardening, some in outdoor nurseries, some sort of sports organisations. But generally, I work with organisations who are interested in helping people live healthier, happier lives in some regard. And I love it. It's brilliant. And I'm learning all the time. I think being freelance is really challenging in a lot of ways, but really interesting. Every day is so different. But I think if you put yourself out there as being specialist in one sector, it enables you to be in the right places with those people. Like, for example, yesterday I was in a room with lots of different stakeholders in active play in Scotland, and that's really interesting because then I've got this broad understanding of their landscape. So then when I'm helping organisations in that sector, I can join the dots for them. You know, I can help them figure out where they fit within the broader landscape and how that influences how they're positioning themselves and talking about themselves and the messaging that they're using and the partnerships and the opportunities that are available to them. I care about people being active and being outdoors, and that leads nicely into the stuff around the outsiders. But for me, that is what drives me. And I've definitely had moments where I thought, am I doing the right thing here? Should I just train and be a mountain leader? You know, could I just become a sports coach or something like that? But actually, I've got a certain set of skills and I might as well use them to amplify the message of all these amazing organisations doing these brilliant things to get people active and get people outdoors. And that's the way I found to apply myself and stick to what I know I'm good at, but do it in a way that feels meaningful and feels like it has a real impact on people.
So we're sitting at this bench, looking at Arthur's Seat and the castle. It's very beautiful. And the sun's come out now after a little bit of rain. It's lovely. And what was your inspiration for starting the Outsiders group?
This is where it all started, this bench.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Right. You were sitting on the bench and had your light bulb moment, did you?
Yeah. Well, do you know what? It was actually born out of frustration at myself, because it was January, probably January the 4th or something like that. It was freezing cold and dark. And I was working in a shared office down in Leith, which is where I live. And I was just not doing anything. I was sat in this dark office. It's so dark in here in the winter time. Like, you know, you get sort of 5.5, 6 hours daylight max. And I'm sat at my computer screen and I sort of looked around and I thought, you know what? I don't think I've actually achieved anything in about 30 minutes. Like, what am I doing?
Because you do just feel like you're sitting in a cocoon, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And I think, and I just had this moment where I realised there was a total disconnect between the way I was living my life in the work week and the way I live my life on the weekends, which was I'm outdoors constantly on the weekends with my children. I've got 2 young boys. It's like having dogs, you know, you've got to run them all of the time. So we are outdoors all day, every day, Saturday and Sunday. And then in the wintertime, in the work week generally, I'm just indoors, stuck to my screen. And I had this moment where I thought, do you know, this is really odd because I've got total freedom and flexibility over my schedule, and yet I'm not utilising that. I'm operating like I'm employed, and that doesn't have to be the case. And I got my thermal tights on and I got my flask of tea and I marched up Calton Hill and I sat on this bench, and within about 5 minutes this blank had cleared and I was typing away furiously with my fingerless gloves on. It was absolutely freezing. But I just had this moment where I was like, actually, the outdoors is really important and it shouldn't just be reserved for the weekend. There's this sort of feast or famine mentality where if you're not working furiously, you've got to be furiously looking for the next piece of work. And I think that sort of pressure that we put on ourselves means that time away from the screen is deemed unproductive, and that is a massive barrier to people.
Yeah.
It really is.
It drives
really
guilt,
is.
I think.
Yeah.
And you said you had a light bulb moment.
Yeah. So I experienced this frustration and part driven by fury, and I think generally when I feel really passionate about something, I'm not one to think about it, I just need to kind of take immediate action. So I posted about this realization I'd had on LinkedIn, which is the only sort of social media platform I really use. And the next day, it had been seen by about 13,000 people, and it had gotten loads and loads of engagement, and loads of people had messaged me saying, like, thanks for sharing that. Like, I feel the same. Like, you're right. Like, yeah, this is absolutely the way I feel. You know, we should be getting outdoors more into the work week. And I felt like I just needed to do something. So I just had this name, The Outsiders, which I felt worked on obviously 2 levels. You know, it's about getting outside, but it's about, if you are self-employed, you do sometimes feel on the outside. It is quite isolating at times. So how could we create something really simple, really just fun and sociable and very light touch that gave people an excuse, an opportunity to get outdoors more in the work week? So that was really what sparked it, and I set the group up on LinkedIn. It's just called The Outsiders Edinburgh, and just started talking about it on the platform and to people I meet through business networking groups and things like that. And essentially all we do is we get together once a month. We go to a different beautiful part of Edinburgh. We're so blessed here. We go for a walk for 2 hours, and it's very lightly structured. You know, everyone just says hi at the beginning and shares what they do, and then something great that's happened for them in the month. And then we just walk and talk and regroup at points so people can kind of mix around. But
I really enjoyed it when I came, and the thing I
Yeah.
thought was great was that when you go to a networking thing and it's indoors and you're sat down and you're talking, but then you think, I'd like to talk to someone else, you can't move on from them without feeling like you're being rude. Whereas because of the nature of the fact that we were walking outside and people were moving around and doing things, you actually just naturally found yourself moving on and talking to somebody else.
yeah,
Partly driven by the fact that we kept losing my dog. I thought that was what was lovely about it.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
looking forward, because I'm going to come this week and we're going to ask some people about it.
It'll be really interesting because I think a lot of people get a lot of different things out of it. For me, it was about having that sort of social commitment to getting outdoors more in my work week. And it's turned from that into something that people often use the word networking, because I think that helps them justify the time outdoors, like there might be a business benefit for it. But I think for a lot of people, they've actually developed friendships through it. We have a call group who come a lot of maybe 15, 20 people now. The group itself, there's about 260 members, but we're regularly getting 25 to 30 people along to the events now. And I think it's an interesting thing you say there about being able to kind of move on and talk to lots of different people. I think generally people find it a lot less intimidating than an indoor network environment. There's really not a sales focus at all. People are there to connect with other people and to get outdoors. It's just not about that. It's really just about getting some fresh air, having a chat. I'm really keen to keep it as simple as possible. And being in nature is just really leveling, because you don't have to worry about what you're wearing. You and I were both wearing trainers and gloves and outdoor.
Mine are really muddy because I've been walking in the woods.
Exactly. People can bring their dogs. People have brought their kids in the past. People bring friends or partners.
I think just something which gets people outside, but also something that creates a sort of support network, I think is really good. How do you choose where you're going to go?
So it started out just being places that I wanted to go. At the beginning, I didn't know if anyone was going to join, so it was just me sat up here fuming on top of Calton Hill. I put this post out, and then I thought, do you know what, I'm going to set a date and a time, and it was the last Friday of January at 10 o'clock, and I thought, oh my word, I've really put myself out here. Is anyone going to turn up? And that first time, 5 people turned up. So people who are still involved today, there was a guy called Bradley who's just been a huge part of the journey of it all this year. There's a guy called Mikey who again has been along to loads of them. Denise, I think Fleur was there, Dr. Laura Winus. There was like a really nice little core of us, and we climbed off the seat that first time. Actually, that was the first one. And then I kind of just thought, right, we'll keep it simple. We'll do it the first Friday of the month, and I'll just pick places. But as we've gone on, the members of the group have sort of started to really influence that. So lots of people said to me, I've never been to Cramond Island, which is like a little island way out to the west of the city there, and we can actually see it just now. So there's a causeway out to it, but there's a window of 3 or 4 hours where you can reach it. And I think it was April time, the tides aligned, and we thought, do you know what, let's do that. And that was great. That was the first time we had 20 people there. And so the word of mouth is definitely spreading, and we just post about it sort of semi-regularly on LinkedIn. And then we use Eventbrite as well, which is a way I think a lot of people find networking opportunity. I had one lovely lady last time, and she said to me, Katie, this is the first networking event I've been to in 20 years where I haven't spent most of the time just hiding in the toilets. And I just thought, oh gosh, if that's the role we can play, then that's fantastic, because I think sometimes these business situations are really uncomfortable for people. And I think there's just something in the fact that I think people have forgotten that they have a choice over where they spend their time. And I think creating a bit of a green belt for ourselves, a bit of time outdoors, whether it's to decompress after a long day, or just if you're stuck on a really knotty problem and you just can't kind of get to grips with it. For me, a 20-minute walk is all it takes, and then I figured it out, or I've thought of someone I can call to help figure it out.
You've already answered it tenfold, I must say, which is, what does the outdoors mean to you?
I could say so many things, but I think it's really now, at this point in my life, it's about giving me space, because I've got a really busy life, work-wise, with my family, and taking time outdoors just gives me an opportunity to think about things differently, get away from my screen, get away from people needing things from me all the time.
So, final question before we go. Where's your favourite place in Edinburgh that you would recommend that people go and discover?
I think actually, this is kind of cheating, but getting slightly out of Edinburgh. We went to the Pentlands for one of the Outsiders excursions. I was worried no one was going to come because it is a bit out of town, but it is incredible, and you actually get proper hills, within 20-30 minutes of the city centre. So I love the Pentlands, and I'm keen to explore the Pentlands more as my children get older and a little bit more capable of walking distances.
So in terms of people finding out more, we're going to put a link to your blog on the notes.
Yes.
On Podbean, and we'll also put a link to the Outsiders on LinkedIn so
Yeah.
that people can go and find out more about that.
Yeah, so it's on LinkedIn. We've got a LinkedIn group, so you just join there and then you'll find out everything you need to. And Eventbrite as well. If you just search the Outsiders Edinburgh on Eventbrite, you'll find it, and the next event will always be on there.
Marvellous. I'll put the links on. And once someone's been to the events, they can then join the WhatsApp group.
Exactly.
Which is a lovely, supportive environment. I really like it. And so really, the only thing left to say is thank you very much.
Thanks,
I've really
Angela.
enjoyed talking to you, and I've enjoyed that we've been wandering around Calton Hill with these fabulous views of Arthur's Seat, and it's been slowly getting busier with tourists, and we've seen some dogs. There's a guy who's set up office up here, which is lovely to see. He obviously comes up and works here often, don't you think?
Yeah, he does. I might go and chat to him actually,
Yeah.
see if he wants to join the group.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I
Thanks,
really
Angela.
enjoyed it.
Great to chat to you.
So today we're walking down the Water of Leith with the Outsiders, and we set off from the visitor centre and went down to visit the Collington Tunnel. And they're standing beside the water here, rushing down a weir. And I'm just talking to some of the people in the Outsider group about what it means for them.
My name's Aileen Carson.
And what is it you do?
I'm a neurodiversity coach, so I work with neurodivergent people in the workplace, and I also run neurodiversity awareness workshops for employers.
When did you start coming to the Outsiders?
I've been here from the beginning. I love the fact that it's a really friendly group. We get outside. I spend a lot of time sitting at my desk in my spare room, not being around people, so it's great to get out into the fresh air, to meet new people, and just, it's just a really relaxed, really friendly group. And I always feel great afterwards, coming along, getting outside, some fresh air, some exercise, and just chatting with people. Sometimes I had things on in my diary, but now I actually prioritise this, and I always keep the last Friday of every month free so I can come to this. It's so important for your mental health, I think, because when you don't have that, it's very easy to become isolated, and I was finding that to begin with when I first started working for myself, that I almost didn't realise it was happening because I've always been quite happy in my own company.
So I'm Bradley Salt. I'm a marketing consultant. My core goal is to use marketing for the good of the world and the good of the people.
So you've been coming to the Outsiders since the beginning, is that right?
At the very beginning. I think the best part is getting away from a culture or just a mindset that work has to be a bit dreadful, you know?
Yeah.
And so I came into it because I'm quite young. I came into it and I was like, this is what people are doing. And just looking around me, I'm like, people seem kind of miserable. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And now when I walk around, we walk around with these people are smiling, people are laughing, it's nice. Everyone's always talking about, it just gets me out so much more. And I just think it's really important. And I think people might see it as this isn't work. You go, you went swimming in the reservoir, this isn't work. But actually, the way I see it is, who are you going to remember more? The person you swam with in a reservoir, or the person you met for 1 minute who handed you their business card and then went and spoke to someone else? The more time you spend alone by yourself, the smaller your world becomes, the less ideas you have, the less creative you become. So this is a massive catalyst for good things in so many directions.
My name's Cara Catch. I'm a tech VA, and I help small businesses and freelancers with their all sorts of digital admin.
And how long have you been coming to the Outsiders?
I had my first walk at Blackford Hill. I think if you'd said to me at the start of the year that I would find a networking group that I actively want to go to and look forward to going to every month, I wouldn't have believed you at all. I feel like I've definitely found my tribe here. I love that you don't have to dress to impress, you don't have to have business cards, you don't have to have a pitch prepared. I think, for people who are neurodiverse, for example, you're walking and you're talking, you're not sitting down face to face, you don't have to make eye contact. It's a lot more relaxed environment, and I think it's really nice just having it in the diary every month, just knowing that, you know, on this day that you are definitely going to be getting up away from your desk, you're going to be spending a few hours in the outdoors. I've been really lucky with the weather as well. Every time we've been out, it's been kind of nice and dry. You know, we've had a few close shaves, but we've got away with it so far.
If you've enjoyed the Edinburgh Outdoors podcast, please rate us on your podcast app and leave a review. And don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues about it too. If you know of an outdoor space in or around Edinburgh that might like to be featured, you can get in touch by email, Instagram or TikTok.